from Damodar. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Janna Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Vishnupada, Paramahamsa, Parivrajacharya, Ashtotara Shri Srimad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada, Paramahamsa, Parivrajacharya, Ashtotara Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Dev Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. New Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 8, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. We're on text 44. Pranayamena trivritta pranendriya manomalam shanar vidudasyapi dhyayen manasa gurunagurum Pranayamena trivritta pranendriya manomalam Shanirvyadasyavidyayen
Shanarvyudasyavidyayen
Manasa Gurunagurum
Manasa Gurunagurum
Pranayamena Trivritta
Pranayamena Trivrita
Pranandriya Manomalam
Anandriyam Manomalam
Shanarvyadasyavidyayen
Shanarvyudasyavidyayen
Manasa Gurunagurum
Manasa Gurunagurum
Pranayamena Trivrita
Pranayamena Trivrita
Pranindriya Manomalam
Anandriya Manomalam
Shanarvyudasyavidyayen
Shanarvyudasyavidyayen
Manasa Gurunagurum
Manasa Gurunagurum Pranayamena Trivrita Pranindriya Manomalam Shanarvyudasyavidyayen Manasa Gurunagurum
Pranayamena
Pranayamena
by breathing exercises.
by breathing exercises.
Trivrita
Trivrita
by the three recommended ways.
by the three recommended ways.
Prana Indriya,
Anandriya,
the life, air, and the senses.
life, air, and the senses.
Manaha, mind. Malam, impurity. Shanai,
Nai,
gradually.
gradually.
Vyadasya,
Vidasya,
giving up.
giving up.
Abidyayet,
Vidyaye,
meditate upon.
meditate upon.
Manasa,
Manasa,
by the mind.
by the mind.
Guruna,
Guruna,
undisturbed. Gurum,
Guru,
the supreme spiritual master.
supreme spiritual master.
Krishna. Translation. After sitting on your seat, practice the three kinds of breathing exercises and thus gradually control the life air, the mind, and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination and with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In this verse, the entire yoga system is described in summary, and special stress is given to the breathing exercises for stopping the disturbing mind. The mind by nature is always oscillating, for it is very fickle, but the breathing exercise is meant to control it. This process of controlling the mind might have been very possible in those days, millions of years ago, when Dhruva Maharaj took to it. But at the present moment, the mind has to be fixed directly on the lotus feet of the Lord by the chanting process. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one immediately concentrates on the sound vibration and thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord, and very quickly one is elevated to the position of samadhi, or trance. If one goes on chanting the holy names of the Lord, which are not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally his mind becomes absorbed in the thought of the Lord. It is here recommended to Dhruva Maharaj that he meditate on the Supreme Guru, or Supreme Spiritual Master. The Supreme Spiritual Master is Krishna, who is therefore known as Chaitya Guru. This refers to the Supersoul who is sitting in everyone's heart. He helps from within as stated in Bhagavad Gita, and he sends the Spiritual Master, who helps from without. The Spiritual Master is the external manifestation of the Chaitya Guru, or the Spiritual Master sitting in everyone's heart. The process by which we give up our thoughts of material things is called pratyahara, which entails being freed from all material thoughts and engagements. The word abidyayet, which is used in this verse, indicates that unless one's mind is fixed, one cannot meditate. The conclusion, therefore, is that meditation means thinking of the Lord within. Whether one comes to that stage by the Ashtanga yoga system or by the method recommended in the Shastras, especially for this present age, to constantly chant the holy name of the Lord, the goal is to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshudanamritamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Kam Karivavachalam Pangam Langayate Gidim Yak Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitaranam Vancha Kaptribhischa Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. After sitting on your seat, practice the 3 kinds of breathing exercises and thus gradually control the life air, the mind, and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination, and with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Rupa Goswami, one of our great acharyas, the person we're supposed to be following, he says, as we've been studying in the morning on Monday mornings, famously says, Utsaha nishchaya daryat tat tat karma pavartanat sangha tyagat satovite shadbir bhakti prasidati. So he says that we need a few different things to be successful in Krishna consciousness and not fail. And he says that we need patience, we need enthusiasm, and we need, what's other ones? Patience, enthusiasm. Tat tat karma varnachanat. Determination. Following the footsteps of the previous acharyas, right? Confidence, giving up association, non-devotees. So we need these things in order to be successful in Krishna consciousness, and people, they have enthusiasm. It's in some ways, for some people, kind of easy to have, especially in the beginning, because everything's very new. The idea of prasad is new, just like a new, people in America, especially devotees who join in America, it's, they grow up eating a whole bunch of different things, and usually it's nothing like prasadam as we know it. So when they come to the world of Krishna consciousness, oh wow, prasadam, this is just, whatever, halava or sweet rice or all these different things, whatever the special prasadam may be, burritos. So, of course, it's easy to be enthusiastic about that, taking prasad. But that goes with everything. Everything is actually quite new. Everything's absolutely new. The holy name, the deities, just the books, everything's new. So in the beginning, it's very easy to be enthusiastic. Just like within relationships. I mean, of course, everybody's brahmacharis here, but within the marriage relationship, over time, you might get sick of the person, literally. Bored, sick, just disgusted even with the person. I mean, of course, that's unfortunate, but of course, there's some, I was married, we were in high school, 16 years old, and now we're, 80 years old or something. But just like Santosh Mataji and Devaki Nandan, they've been married for 50 years or something like that. So, and whatever, that's good, if someone's going to do that. But there are cases, and it's quite common, where people just become sick of each other. Someone was telling me recently that some kind of distant family, they're married, a girl and a boy, and they're married, and they had a child and everything, and, nice people. But she just became really just disgusted with him. Like, she said she didn't want to see him. and they're married, you know. And she said that each time, you know, like someone, you know, touch you on the arm or something, she'd get the, what is it called? The kind of, creepy crawly, like, oh, this guy just. So yeah, naturally there's a separation, there's a break. They broke up, you know. So, but in the beginning it was very enthusiastic, and you know, they love each other, and I'm going to spend the rest of our lives together, right? Till death do us part. So similarly with Krishna consciousness, I mean, people, you know, they come, oh wow, everything's so great, and so enthusiastic. And sometimes over time, you know, till death do us part. Of course, Krishna consciousness, you don't, right? It keeps on going after death, but because, you know, the material mind, which Prabhupada's bringing up here, disturbed mind, oscillating mind, fickle mind. So the disturbed, oscillating, fickle, material mind, it always wants to see things from a mundane point of view, the contaminated mind. So instead of seeing prasadam and the deities and devotees and Srila Prabhupada's books and all of these wonderful things as divine, as spiritual, as the most wonderful thing, the disturbed, material, oscillating, fickle mind sees it as like, oh, what is this? Gradually, it may, not of course all the time. There's many devotees who have, right, experiencing the ever-freshness of Krishna consciousness for years and decades. But that is the case sometimes. And people may even come to the platform, just I was discussing this woman and man being married, where she was just absolutely disgusted with him, didn't want to see him, and got the creepy crawlies when, you know, he touched her arm, and there's a divorce. So people may even have some similarly, strangely enough, feelings about Krishna consciousness. Oh, that's just, they write books about, oh yeah, I was part of the Hare Krishnas and whatever. It's just, so, whatever. But so the point is that in order to not fall into the trap of the, you know, fickle, oscillating, disturbed mind, you know, the different tricks the mind presents, in order for us to try to give up Krishna consciousness, we have to have a patience. There was one, because over time, I mean, there may be some challenges, right? Whether it's health challenges or, you know, challenges from the fickle, oscillating, disturbed mind, or whatever, senses, on and on and on. There's like a big list of different possible challenges that may come up in a devotee's life, which may test their Krishna consciousness in terms of whether they continue or not. So, yeah, at least to some degree, and of course, eventually, fully, we have to control our minds. There was somebody, she's in the field of like hospice. She's a hospice worker, and actually Gunagrai Swami quoted her in one of his Vyasa Puja offerings. But this quote is a good quote. It says that people are just like stained glass. When the sun is out, they sparkle and they shine, right? In other words, when everything's going good, they just, right, sparkle, shine, smiling, you know, skipping down the road and everything, right? Or whatever, skipping down to Mangalarti and Haribo, whatever. So, but when, you know, darkness sets in, or when the, you know, the clouds come, when the rain comes, in other words, when difficulties arise, the test is that if there is light within, then that light will shine out. stained glass. Like you go to a church or something, and it's a dark night. There's some stained glass there. So if there's a light within that church, the stained glass will light up. But if there's no light, it's just dark. So in other words, the ability to continue enthusiastically and at least to some degree happily, despite difficulties, we have to have some inner strength. Some inner, we have to have some, strength. So in order to do that, then we come back to this patience. We have to have patience, which is a very difficult thing nowadays. As time continues, it's more and more difficult thing for people to have, because people want things immediately. Why? Because of passion, and also that's just on some level how material society has organized, how material society has organized things, that it just, everything's very, very quick. So of course, the process in which Dhruva Maharaj engaged in, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, we're not going to engage in. It's challenging, it's difficult, especially for this age. But the process that we have is chanting Hare Krishna. That's the main process. And Prabhupada says that we can very quickly, one can be elevated to the position of samadhi or trance. And he says that naturally when we chant, naturally when someone chants, his mind becomes absorbed in thought of the Lord. So if we know someone, means we know their name and we know what they look like and etc. Then if that person is not within our, you could say, whatever, not within our vision, they're separated from us. Let's say they're on the other side of the world or something. If we know that person, when we hear their name, so many remembrances will come up. Oh, what he likes, or what we've talked about, or what we've done together. And if we don't know the person, then nothing comes up in the mind. So, for example, if I was to say, if Zach didn't know Tirtha Maharaj, and if I was to say, oh, Tirtha Maharaj, and he didn't hear his name once, he's never seen a picture of him, he just knows nothing about him. So what does that mean to Zach? It doesn't mean anything. Tirtha Maharaj, it doesn't mean anything. But if he knows him, then it actually means something. Oh, okay. So that's natural. I mean, the other day I was thinking of Tirtha Maharaj, and I was thinking about some kirtan and a Rath Yatra he was leading, and on and on and on like that. So similarly with Krishna, the whole idea is that Krishna is a person, and Krishna has a form, and Krishna has activities, and then therefore when we chant Krishna's name, we may remember different things about Krishna. And this is natural. Naturally, his mind becomes absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. So Krishna consciousness, I mean, everybody grows up, or at least some people, they grow up with some concept of God. A lot of people in America, they grow up with some concept of God. But before someone comes to Krishna consciousness, or even before I came to Krishna consciousness, and many devotees, that really there's, you could say Krishna consciousness puts a face on God, which is true. Because without Krishna consciousness, okay, people know about Jesus, right? And, there's some pictures of Jesus people have painted and so on. But without Jesus, you could just think about Christianity without Jesus. And specifically, the idea of God, it's kind of, or it is very vague. So this is the wonderful thing that we should try to remember as much as possible, that Krishna consciousness, has given us a very clear, or Srila Prabhupada has given us a very clear conception of God. So that's a wonderful thing, and many people they're happy with that. They're very happy, when they encounter that. So we should try to broadcast that message as far as possible. And the spiritual master, that's what the spiritual master wants. He wants us to broadcast, because the spiritual master wants to bring as many people back to Krishna as possible. And therefore, we should also want that, to bring as many people back to Krishna as possible. And as Prabhupada says here, that the spiritual master, the original spiritual, or the supreme spiritual master is Krishna, or the supreme guru, the Chaitya guru, the guru in the heart. And Prabhupada says that the spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Chaitya guru, the spiritual master sitting in everyone's heart. So we have plenty of help. We have plenty of assistance to become fully Krishna conscious in this life. And even Srila Prabhupada said about his Krishna book, this is by, I think it's Shruti Kirti, Prabhu. But Prabhupada said, or he was saying that Prabhupada said about his Krishna book, and Prabhupada said, this Krishna book is so wonderful. He said, if you read this Krishna book, you could become fully Krishna conscious. And he said, even just reading one chapter of this Krishna book, you could become fully Krishna conscious. And then he said, even just one paragraph, you could become fully Krishna conscious. And he said, even just one sentence. And then he said, even just one word, you could become fully Krishna. As Prabhupada said about Krishna book, the power of Krishna book. So just that alone, Krishna book. And what to speak of all the other process of devotional service we have. So we have what we need to become fully Krishna conscious. We just need to, the idea is that just to develop our desire to become Krishna conscious. Which the spiritual master, he is very nicely and kindly fanning that, and the devotees are fanning that spark, that fire. So, so we don't really have anybody to blame for us, whatever, maybe not being Krishna conscious, or maybe not being as Krishna conscious as we would like to be, and so on. The only persons to really blame is ourselves, if we want to blame anybody. The blame game, right? Victim consciousness. Oh, I'm a victim. Well, the idea is that we have put ourselves in the situation, and if we don't like it, then we should blame ourselves. That's the idea. So it's not the temple president, or in this case, in SanDiego Temple, no temple president.
Blame you.
Yeah, yeah.
No shortage. Don't blame me.
Yeah, there's so many people to blame, right? So there's no lack, no shortage of people to blame. But so yeah, we shouldn't do that. It's just, okay, blame myself. Oh, it's actually I'm actually the problem. Of course, from one angle of vision, there's so many problems with the world, but there's one quote. It said, the problem with the world is I am a sinner.
Is I the center?
I'm a sinner.
Sinner, right?
Yeah, the problem with the world is I'm a sinner. So, Maya is there, okay, fine, but the problem is, the person's attached to Maya. Just like that guru, right? The disciple was saying, "Oh, Gurudev, Maya is like really not letting go of me, and I'm having a really difficult time." And I'm sure gurus get that a lot. 100 years ago, now. So the guru said, "Okay, yeah, I'll explain this to you." And then he said, and then he went to a nearby tree and he embraced the tree. And then he started yelling at the tree, "Let go of me! Let go of me! Let go of me!" And then the disciples go, "Oh, Gurudev, what are you doing?" Like this, kind of strange. You can imagine your spiritual master doing that. And then, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then the guru said, "Well, I'm similarly, in the same way you're saying Maya is not letting you go. So similarly, I'm saying, oh, let me go to the tree. It's not that the tree is holding on to me. I'm holding on to the tree." Of course, you have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He embraced a few trees, sent them back to Godhead. There's a picture of that BBT painting. So, so whatever the case is, that the spiritual master, he's there, and Krishna's there, and fortunately they don't give up on us. I mean, we may give up on ourselves, people may give up on us, but fortunately the spiritual master and Krishna don't give up on us. And they're just waiting and waiting and waiting patiently for us to, you could say, get with the program. So that's very kind of them, the supremely kind. So again, we're not going to be doing Ashtanga and Pratyahara for self-realization and God realization as Dhruva Maharaj did, but we have our process. And Rupa Goswami says, out of all the process of devotional service, there's 5 most potent forms of devotional service, which are residing in Mathura, or a holy place, chanting the holy name, associating with devotees, worshipping the Murti, the deity, with great awe and reverence, and what's the last one? Associating with devotees. So these are the 5 most potent forms, and Srila Prabhupada very expertly instituted these within the morning program and throughout our lives. So the more we could attach ourselves to these most potent forms of devotional service, the more closer we're getting to developing what we're trying to develop, love for Krishna. So attachment to the Bhagavatam, to the holy name, to the devotees, to the holy place. And this is our process. This is our process to become Krishna conscious in this age, chanting the holy name, engaging in these different forms of devotional service.
Who's that?
Ryan. Sneezing loud. When Bhakti Sundar Swami sneezes, he says, "Achyuta." Some devotees say, I heard somebody else say something, I'm forgetting what they said. So whether one comes to the stage by the Ashtanga system or the method recommended in the Shastras, Prabhupada saying in purport, especially for this present age, to constantly chant the holy name of the Lord, the goal is to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, so yes, we have to meditate throughout our lives on Krishna, and then when it comes to the last stage of our lives, the last few moments of life, we also have to meditate on Krishna, and we can go back to Godhead. That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Antakale chamam eva smaramukta. Whatever we think of at the time, whatever we remember, we attain that state. So we go back to Godhead. So we have to practice that. And yeah, you fast forward, the movie. You fast forward our lives, you fast forward the clock, and yeah, everybody, fast forward, and we're on the last stages of our life, and the last moments of our life, and then whatever, our bodies are burned and thrown into the Ganges or the Yamuna, or some cases, for some devotees, most devotees not, but put in the ground in some type of samadhi, and then that's it. We could go back to the spiritual world. So, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, and as quoting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in that famous shloka in the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, Lord Brahma's prayers, he says that those who, while, what is it? Tate nukampams. What is the English? Those who,
This is the diabolical.
yeah. What is it? Tolerating all the difficulties, all the sufferings, and still bowing down, still worshiping Krishna, not blaming Krishna. What is it? Okay, good.
For you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation for his becoming practice.
Yeah, so in the purport it says that the qualification for one to inherit his father's property is simply just to stay alive. In most cases, of course, it's a simple, basic qualification. Of course, nowadays it can't be. Anyways, so the idea is that the qualification for us to go back to inherit the spiritual world, kingdom of God, is for us just to stay alive. So following the principles, chanting 16 rounds, doing our best to spread the Hare Krishna movement, and all these other things. And then just staying alive, and then we could attain that. So does anyone have any, yes?
Just as a side, like you said about staying alive or staying on the boat, that's Prabhupada said if the boat is rocking and you're in the middle of the ocean because it's a storm, is it a wise idea to jump off the boat because the boat is rocking and jump into the ocean?
No, it's not.
No, it's not going to solve your problem. So sure, there's difficulties come in Krishna consciousness. This world is a difficult place. But I did have a question.
Become shark food, become fish food.
I'm sharp. You know, this you were saying that Krishna consciousness puts a face on it. Do we really need to? I don't want to. Do we need that just for the?
Well, it's for the people.
I know. How many people are there? But let's do it anyway.
Hare Krishna.
Well, you said it. You know, Krishna consciousness puts a face on it and makes us able to, focus. And you can't just love Tirtha Maharaj just by hearing a name. You have to know some activity. Well, that's just because you're slow and sentimental. And therefore, yeah, sure. For those who are, you've created idea of this Krishna and his pastimes and forms, and that gives you something to think about. Okay, fine. But those of us who are deeper intellect, more mature, we don't need these crutches. And we recognize that that's all that is. It's a fabrication. It's a crutch that you've developed. But really, God is formless and so this is all just fabrication to help you fix your mind because you're slow.
All right. Well, I mean, just if you look at,
I have another question too.
if you look at any, I mean, the basic, say, underlying principle behind any theistic tradition, which means they believe in God, and specifically, I'm talking about traditions where they want to develop a relationship with God. At least you look at, we say, Christianity or other things. There's this idea of relationship. So within any relationship, there has to be a relationship. There has to be some service. There has to be some association, and you have to know about the person. You can't just love and be attached to something you know nothing about.
Well, I love the cosmos. I love what God created. I love sunsets and trees and feeding birds.
Well, then, here's the material world. Persons like that will just take another material birth, and that's it. So yeah, I mean, people think, oh, I'll just meditate on. I mean, how many? See, the thing is, what impersonalism has done, it is this idea of God being formless and so on. It has made religion, and specifically the process of religion, engagement in religion, so stale and boring and lifeless. No juice, no ecstasy, in which the material, and it makes the material world look very attractive. I mean, just the idea, okay, God's an old man, and he's sitting on a throne with a beard, and people are sitting around and glorifying. There's a big line there or whatever. God knows the conception. I mean, a lot of people aren't attracted to that, and the proof is that everybody in this material is very attracted to the material world. And at least you look everywhere, everybody looks very materially engaged. You don't see people, so attached to God. That's the general thing. So in other words, it's this whole idea has made sinful life, materialistic life, very attractive, and that's the basic. So in other words, it doesn't work. People may say, oh, I'll meditate on the light or formless God, but it just doesn't practically work. There's no relationship.
Can I just say something in regards to what you said?
Yes.
We were distributing books at Ocean Beach the other day.
Did you meet God over there?
I met a few people that said they did.
Oh, yeah?
And it sound okay? Okay. And I met this lady. She came up to our table, and she expressed some interest in the books. And she said, "Oh, what tradition are you part of?" And I could tell she was, she had some knowledge of Indian spirituality. So I just said, "Part of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya." And she said, "Oh, okay. So is that connected to Shivananda at all? Because I lived in a Shivananda ashram in Grass Valley in Costa Rica." And I said, "No. What we stress a different point on ultimate realization. Shivananda is more of a impersonal philosophy, and we stress the idea of personal realization." And she says, "Well, what does that mean?" And I started explaining, impersonal basically means a realization of a non-dual. Yeah, a non-dual.
No, we know what it means. Fast forward.
Okay. So the point is, I went through this explanation, and then I explained Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. And she said, "Wow, that really makes sense." Because, my experience of the Shivananda ashram, I felt like it was good for me at the time, but one of the things I became disenchanted in is they lacked an idea of personal sovereignty. And so I was missing that, and I feel like because of that, a lot of relationships were lost that could have been because of the underlying principle of the. No, she didn't. She took one book. She took a small book.
Good.
But she appreciated coming to the platform of personality rather than just existing on an impersonal platform.
Sure, it's good. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Yeah, there's a personal aspect of God. I'm asking Paul, I'm going to follow him to class. Yeah, there's a personal aspect of God, and that's good for you. But you're also conceding that there's an impersonal aspect, and the impersonal aspect is better for those who are smart.
Well,
I'm satisfied with your answer that it's frankly they can say whatever they want, but we don't see them able to give up sense gratification, attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Work, like you said.
Yeah, there's so many impersonalists. They fall down, right? As that verse in the Bhagavatam said, they rise very high up and then they fall down because of their desire for relationships, and then they fall down in the sense gratification. So.
Can I ask you my other question?
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have a question? I don't want to. No, go ahead.
So, in the beginning, Balarama, you were talking about, you had mentioned that Krishna
I don't know if that speaker.
Krishna consciousness requires inner strength, and I started thinking about the idea of self-reliance, or Obviously, we're not totally independent, but can you talk about why exactly it is ultimately a bad thing to be too reliant, and how it's bad for the person who is too reliant, and how it's bad for the people that they're too reliant on? In any situation, like in any circumstance.
Well, Prabhupada said you have to, the guru, the devotees, they give you so much guidance, right? But he puts in a purport, you have to fly your own plane. So there's a sense that when it comes down to it, I mean, no one's going to be Krishna conscious for you. We have to be Krishna conscious. It's our responsibility to be Krishna conscious. And also, I mean, on so many different levels of being too reliant on people, a lot of people see that as a nuisance. I mean, I could just imagine parents and their children, calling, they're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50. Oh, Dad, hey, I really need to borrow, can I borrow a few $100? And it's just like, come on, man, like, get it together, like, rise up, rise to the occasion, become a... So this idea of kind of like, bird being pushed out of its nest, you got to fly, right? So yeah, within Krishna consciousness, I mean, young men that come to the ashram and, they're coming from their homes, where their parents are there or wherever they're coming from, a lot of them. And there's a lot of, you could say, they may be being, you could say, pampered or babied or whatever you want to say within their homes. And that's generally the case. Parents like to, take care of their kids even though they're like, But, when they come to the ashram, there's no, no mother around, no father around. So there's a bit of you have to be a little sufficient, you say. So, but within Krishna consciousness, yes, you can't be too dependent on others because other people at times may fail you. And then if all of your whole life is depending on a few people, means your whole life is depending on how others are doing, there may be problems. I mean, if I based my life on how other brahmacharis were holding up and what they're what difficulties they're having and how they're giving up their brahmacharya, I mean, I wouldn't be in this temple I would have left years ago with all the depressing news that sometimes I get. With elders, devotees have, So, yeah. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything or.
Like you say, Prabhupada says too much dependence on others ruins the vitality of the self. And so this devotee blooped, or this, person's giving me a hard time, or this guy's been chanting Hare Krishna for 20 years and look where he's at. He hasn't made it. Yeah, but does that mean Krishna's not God, or the three modes of material nature aren't there, or that the acharyas are wrong? If one's vision of truth is based on other constantly mutable factors, then you're going to be tossed around forever, Krishna's God. Here's what the acharyas say. It makes sense. That's the path. It's irrelevant what other people think or do. Because they're foolish, I should also be a fool. I think you mentioned one time, and my mother used to say this, over here everybody jumped off the roof, would you jump off the roof too? Yeah, so it's that kind of logic.
Yeah.
And we got to have a backbone. You got to stand up. Krishna says to Arjuna, stand and fight. Armed with yoga, stand and fight.
Yes.
Nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah, Prabhupada said in one class, Krishna didn't tell Arjuna, you sit on the chariot and smoke ganja, and then I'll fight. Prabhupada said that.
Especially keeping the atmosphere
in
those days, probably the smell of marijuana was wafting through the room.
Yeah, that's true.
Prabhupada, the founder of Acharya,
And he showed a perfect example. He was completely involved with the Gaudiya Math, and he tried like anything to work with the Gaudiya Math. But when that failed, he didn't fail. He took up on his own and started the whole thing. He was reliant on Krishna, on his spiritual master, and Lord Chaitanya. And whatever happened, that was his rock, and he was successful.
Yeah.
And his wife, your natural ally, probably giving classes. She's upstairs. You were mentioning the other day.
Yeah.
And she's upstairs drinking tea.
Yeah.
Traded his bhagavatam for cookies, tea biscuits.
Yeah. All right, Jai. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.